Darkness hides many secrets, but some encounters are too terrifying to forget. Imagine walking alone at night, feeling like someone's watching you. Then suddenly, a shadow moves where no one should be. Tonight, we bring you 38 true scary stories from Reddit, real-life disturbing encounters that will make you question the world around you. These are not ghost stories or urban legends. These are experiences from people just like you who came face to face with something unexplainable, something deeply unsettling. One Reddit user recalls the time they took a shortcut through an empty parking lot after work. The streetlights flickered, and the air was unnaturally still. Then they heard footsteps behind them, slow, deliberate. Turning around, no one was there. They quickened their pace, but the footsteps followed, matching every step. The lot was open, no cars, no hiding spots. But the feeling of being watched, being hunted, grew stronger. Then, out of the corner of their eye, they saw something. Something that shouldn't have been there. Another person shared a chilling experience from their childhood. They woke up in the middle of the night to whispering outside their window. Thinking it was the wind, they tried to go back to sleep until the whispers turned into soft laughter just inches away. The next morning, they found footprints in the dirt, outside, leading straight to their window. But there was something even more disturbing. Those footprints never led away. These stories are real. These encounters are unforgettable. And by the time you finish watching, you might start double-checking your locks and glancing over your shoulder. Because sometimes the scariest things aren't just in your imagination. They're right behind you. The feeling of being watched is something we often brush off, a trick of the mind, a moment of paranoia. But what if it isn't? What if, in that silent parking lot, in that dark bedroom, someone or something is really there? The footsteps in the empty lot had stopped, but the presence lingered. The Reddit user, heart pounding, turned in circles, scanning the shadows. There was no wind, no rustling leaves, just silence, thick and heavy. The only way out was through a dimly lit alley leading to the main road. They ran, trying to shake the feeling crawling up their spine. Just as they reached the end, a metallic clang echoed behind them, like a boot kicking over a trash can. They spun around, breath catching in their throat. The alley was empty, but something was different. The streetlight above flickered once, twice, then went out. The darkness swallowed everything. Meanwhile, the child who heard whispers outside their window was growing up, but the memory never left them. Years later, they moved to a new house, far from their childhood home, believing those nights were just strange coincidences. But then, one night, as they lay in bed scrolling through their phone, a familiar sound reached their ears. A whisper, faint, almost like a sigh. Their body tensed. They were on the second floor now. There was no way someone could be outside their window. Slowly, they turned their head. The window was closed, curtains slightly swaying from the fan. The sound had stopped. But just as they convinced themselves it was nothing, their phone screen suddenly dimmed, as if someone had cast a shadow over it. And then, there are stories of encounters that are neither seen nor heard, but deeply felt. Another Reddit user shared how they once woke up in the middle of the night, completely paralyzed. They weren't asleep. They could hear the hum of their bedside lamp, see the faint glow of the clock reading 3:17 a.m., but they couldn't move, couldn't speak. And then the air in the room changed. It was subtle at first, like a shift in pressure, but then they felt it, something heavy pressing down on their chest, a weight that wasn't there moments ago. Their mind screamed, but their body refused to respond. Then, out of nowhere, a voice whispered, right next to their ear, a single word. They never told anyone what it said. The weight on their chest vanished as suddenly as it came, but the feeling of something unseen never left. They stayed awake until sunrise, afraid to close their eyes. Meanwhile, another user recalled a similar experience, except they weren't alone. Their roommate had woken up screaming in the next room, gasping for air, claiming something had been standing over them, watching. The two compared stories, realizing their nightmares happened at the exact same time. But how could that be possible? The fear grew stronger, and the question remained. Was it all in their heads, or was something really there, waiting? The two roommates barely slept after that night. Every small sound made them jump. Every shadow felt like it was moving. They tried to laugh it off, telling themselves it was stress, exhaustion, anything but the impossible. But the unease never left. Then, a few nights later, it happened again. This time, one of them woke up to a faint creaking noise, like slow footsteps on an old wooden floor. Their breath hitched. Their door was slightly open, just enough to see into the hallway. The dim glow from the nightlight cast long, shifting shadows, but nothing seemed out of place. They turned over, trying to ignore it, but then the door creaked wider. Their heart pounded. Someone was there. Frozen in place, they listened, waiting for another sound, another sign of movement. Then, from the other room, a whisper, soft, broken, almost pleading. It was their roommate's voice. But something was wrong. It didn't sound like them. It was too strained, too distant. Terrified, they grabbed their phone and texted, "Are you awake?" The message sent. No reply. But then, a notification popped up. Message from roommate. "I'm outside. Let me in." Cold fear washed over them. The air in the room felt heavier, like something unseen was pressing in, watching. Their roommate wasn't outside. Their roommate was in the next room. So who or what had sent that message? A floorboard creaked just outside their door. Slow, deliberate. Their screen flickered, dimming just like it had before. And then, in the silence, a voice, low and unfamiliar, whispered their name. Their breath caught in their throat. The voice had spoken so close, as if someone was standing just inches away. But the room was empty. The phone slipped from their trembling fingers, landing softly on the blanket. The screen still glowed, the unread message staring back at them. Then a second notification popped up. Message from roommate. "Don't open the door." The fear turned to ice. The door was still cracked open, just slightly, and the hallway beyond looked darker than before. The soft creak of the floorboard had stopped, but they could feel it. Someone, something, was just on the other side. Listening, waiting. Heart pounding, they forced themselves to move, to react. They reached for their phone again, but before they could reply, a slow, deliberate knock echoed from the doorframe. 3 knocks, measured, calm. The sound felt out of place, too careful, too controlled. Then another message. "Roommate, it's not me." Terror surged through them. They wanted to scream, to run, but their body wouldn't listen. Instead, they stayed frozen, staring at the door as the handle began to turn. Just then, the front door to their apartment burst open. Footsteps rushed inside. A voice, loud, panicked, their actual roommate. "Lock your door, now!" Snapping out of their trance, they lunged forward, slamming the door shut just as the handle twisted violently from the other side. A heavy force slammed into the wood, rattling the hinges. For a moment it felt like the door wouldn't hold, but then silence. The pressure disappeared. The air grew still, seconds stretched into minutes. Then, cautiously, they pressed their ear against the door. Nothing. No footsteps, no breathing. Whatever had been there was gone. Or at least that's what they thought. Because when they finally dared to open the door, the hallway was empty. But on the floor, just outside their room, their phone was lying face down. The screen was on. One final message. Unknown number. "See you soon." Their roommate stood frozen in the doorway, eyes locked on the phone lying face down on the floor. The screen flickered once, then went black. Neither of them moved. The apartment was silent, but the weight in the air remained, thick and suffocating, as if something unseen was still lurking, waiting. Then, without warning, the overhead light flickered violently before shattering with a loud pop. Glass rained down onto the floor. They stumbled back, heart hammering. The darkness swallowed the room, and for a terrifying moment, everything was still, until the phone vibrated again. A single message illuminated the screen. Unknown number. "I'm inside." A sharp breath caught in their throat. They turned to their roommate, who had already pulled out their phone, hands shaking as they dialed for help. The call rang once, twice. Then a static-filled voice answered, but it wasn't the police. A whisper, distorted and low, crackled through the speaker. Too late. The phone died instantly. Panic surged through them. They grabbed the nearest object, a lamp, anything to defend themselves. But before they could react, the closet door at the end of the hall swung open on its own. A shape, tall, shadowy, stood inside. It didn't move. It didn't breathe. It just watched. The air in the room felt heavy, like it was pressing in on them, stealing every ounce of warmth. And then, as if reality itself had shifted, the shadow stepped forward. But just before it could take another step, bang! The front door slammed open again. This time, a bright beam of light cut through the darkness. A voice, loud and commanding. The real police. The lights flickered back on in an instant. The room was empty. No shadow. No presence. Just two terrified people and a house that suddenly felt colder than ever. As the officers searched the apartment, one of them picked up the fallen phone, scrolling through the message history. A frown crossed his face. "You said someone was texting you?" he asked. They nodded, still shaken. The officer turned the screen toward them. There were no messages, not a single one. But as they stared at the phone, trying to process what had just happened, a notification suddenly appeared. No sound, no vibration, just a single message at the top of the screen. Unknown number. You can't escape. The room felt colder than before. The officer stared at the phone, then back at them. "Are you sure someone was texting you?" His voice was calm, but there was something in his eyes. Doubt, confusion, maybe even fear. They looked at their roommate, who was just as shaken. "We both saw it," they insisted. "The messages were there. They told me not to open the door, then said they were inside." The officer exhaled, glancing at his partner. "There's no sign of forced entry, no footprints. Nothing's missing." He paused, then added, "And no number in your call logs either." That didn't make sense. They had heard the voice on the phone. They had seen the messages, the shattered light bulb, the open closet. Those were real, weren't they? The officers did one final sweep of the apartment, assuring them everything was secure. One of them suggested it might have been a prank or a system glitch. Sometimes late-night fear can play tricks on the mind, but they knew the truth. Something was there. Something had been watching. After the police left, the apartment felt different, emptier, but not in a comforting way. Every creak, every flicker of the lights made them jump. Neither of them could shake the feeling that this wasn't over. They tried to sleep, but every time they closed their eyes, they felt it. That strange, heavy presence lingering just out of sight. The next morning they decided to leave, just for a while until things felt normal again. They packed their bags, locked the door, and drove away. But as they turned the corner, leaving the apartment behind, their phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number. Leaving won't help. Their hands tightened on the steering wheel, heart racing. They didn't dare open it. They just kept driving, hoping, praying that some things, no matter how terrifying, would eventually fade away. But deep down, they knew the truth. Some things never leave. Some things are always watching.